Hello and welcome to TotoTCG. You are here with me, Matthew, and we are back here with another Pokemon video. We have another news update in which contains another new GX. So, it's a pretty interesting one. Pretty interesting. It was an EX back in Fates Collide, I believe. Did have a Mega Evolution. And it is a Dragon type. What are we talking about? Well, we are talking about Altaria GX. Very, very cool indeed. Very nice looking Pokemon. The card there looks insane. Really, really cool. Absolutely fantastic stuff. It is a Dragon type with 200 HP, which is pretty sweet. And it is a Stage 1 Pokemon because it does evolve from Swablu, which is in the set, so that's fine. You got some interesting moves. And some interesting, obviously most dragon types either have an odd sort of selection of energies or they sort of like mishmash, and that's exactly what Altaria does. So without further ado, let's have a little look at the full art and the rainbow rare for this card. So we got the full art right there. Looks very, very cool. Nice puffy cloud. That's basically what it looks like, but it's like the wings have folded back and it's almost like a small snake coming through the clouds. Really, really cool. Love the design of Altaria. It looks absolutely insane. Really, really cool. And the rainbow rare as well, exactly the same. Looks quite nice actually, in a sort of like rainbow multicoloured sort of thing. It works quite well. Looks really, really cool. Almost reminds me of Sliggoo. I don't know why. Is it Sliggoo? No, Goodra. Or one of the two actually, because obviously Sliggoo does evolve from Goodra and they're sort of similar-ish. It just reminds me of that. I don't know why. Obviously it is Altaria, but it just reminds me of it. I don't know why. It might be the colour scheme. It's odd, but really cool nevertheless. So let's have a look at that first attack. You can see how much damage it does there, but what does it do? So it is called a Bright Tone for 1 fairy, 1 colourless. Could just be 2 fairy, but it's up to you. 50 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon can't be damaged by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon GX and Pokemon EX. Now, of course, when it does rotate, all of this GX and EX, it'll just be down to GX because there will be no EXs in the actual format. But obviously, if it does go into Expanded, you've still got EXs, so that's fair enough. So this is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool attack because you're sort of dealing that damage and then you're like, okay, come at me. You know, what have you got? Most people nowadays seem to be playing a load of GXs. Obviously, there are a few decks which do have those sort of Pokemon that are like basics and they're not GXs, which can come up and actually do some damage. Say, for example, a Tapu Koko, that can come up and do 20 to everything, which would be pretty cool indeed. So, yeah, there is that, which is pretty nice. Pretty nice indeed. So that's a pretty cool move. Moving on to the next one, we have Sonic Edge. Now this is for Water Fairy Colourless. Thank you very much. So now you're going to have to try and influence 2 types of energy into this deck, being Water and Fairy. Probably mostly Fairy because you can get away with having 2 Fairy on this Pokemon and 1 Water. But yeah, or you could actually play Rainbow Energy, although that will be taking 10 damage off, but at least then you wouldn't have to have Water Energy. You would just have maybe 4 rainbows and hope that you can get them, seeing as you can only play 4 of this Pokemon, unless obviously it does get knocked out and you bring it back. You can't really bring back the energy. That's what I'm sort of getting at. But for Sonic Edge, Water, Fairy and Colourless, it does 110 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by your opponent's hold on, what? Oh, right, okay. Isn't affected by effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So, what? Say, for example, it says like, I don't know, maybe. Oh, I know. For example, something like Armor Press or something. So, like, maybe 90. Yeah, maybe it does. So instead of, I think with Golisopod has Armor Press, and I think it does about 90 damage, and then it like takes 30 less, so I'm guessing that means that. So the effects that have been applied that previous turn, they're not like in play. So I mean, that's fair enough. This attack's damage isn't affected by effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. Effects on your... Does that mean items as well? Like maybe if you go against a metal deck. That's interesting. It's an interesting one. Decent amount of damage. Choice band would help put it up to 140, but I don't really think that's what you'd be playing it for. I honestly think that first attack is pretty cool because it would stop the GXs and EXs from attacking you. You can just sit there and hope that they don't bring up anything. Although in terms of a Tapu Koko, the only damage you're really going to get done is either 20 or 50, depending on if it's got a choice band on it and if this is on the bench. So I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. And the last move we have is Euphoria GX. I really hope it is actually called that when it gets translated to English. Euphoria. For a fairy and colourless. It's ideal because it matches with the first attack, so that's really cool. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Heal all damage from all of your Pokemon in play. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you had Tapu Lele where you could heal just 2. Heal all damage from all of your Pokemon in play, including Altaria, because it doesn't say anything about just benched or just active. It says all damage from all of your Pokemon in play. That could be pretty cool. Now, if someone manages to do this during pre-release, that's going to be really annoying because obviously during pre-release you can chip away with a little bit of damage and it's just a slow back and forth, back and forth. You bring this up and be like, well, okay, I've got a fairy and a colourless on here. Bang, happy days. I'm just going to heal everything on my bench. Good job. And you're just like, okay, fair enough. I'll just try again. So yeah, that could be very, very interesting indeed. I think the first and the GX move are incredibly cool for this thing. Maybe even worth actually running this in a fairy deck due to that GX. Because you could have all the stuff on your bench and be like, right, okay, I've got Altaria, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to heal everything. As much as Altaria might, and I say might, get knocked out, you've healed everything on your bench, which could be your main attackers, which is pretty cool. So I definitely think this is a really, really good card. So let's move on. Of course, it is a GX, so if it does get knocked out, you will be taking 2 prizes. Surprisingly, it is weak to Fairy, but it is a Dragon type, so, I mean, that's to be expected. Actually, all dragons are weak to Fairy. It's just funny how it actually has Fairy on it, and it's weak to Fairy. But, there we go. Resistance, nothing, which is, it kind of sucks, but hey-ho. And a retreat of 1 is pretty cool, I have to say. Especially with Floatstone going to be going out of rotation, and with a Skateboard in play at the moment, which allows it to be reduced by 1, then this thing could retreat for free, which is pretty cool. And could definitely help with bringing it up for a GX, and then the next turn, if it doesn't get knocked out, just retreat it using the Escape Board. So that'd be pretty cool. So let's have a little look at what works with this card. So I've got a few things here. We've got 1 Dragon type here, Alolan Executor GX. Now, I've put this up here because, well, number 1, it's a Dragon type, and I don't know. It just makes sense, you know. If you have a Dragon type, put it with a Dragon type. I know there's no double Dragon energy because there used to be, but if there was, these would be pretty cool because obviously you could then like mix them all together and have Dragon types all together. But Alolan Executor doesn't see a lot of play, if not barely any. But there are actually quite a few different moves here which could work quite nicely. Even if you just threw a little bit of grass energy in there, it doesn't even say different times the amount of energy. It doesn't even say to have 4 grass. It could just be 1 grass. So you could maybe run 4 grass, 4 water, and a ton of fairy. Bang! You could then run this, and it's a pretty cool Pokemon. Of course, the retreat cost is a little bit meh, but it's a bit of fun, isn't it? You know, load of Dragon types. Another one that I think could be thought of here, as much as it isn't fairy, but it is another dragon, is Ultra Necrozma GX. Now, of course, this does run a lot of energy, but with the fact of having Malamar in this deck, and you maybe just place maybe a 2/2 line of Altaria in there, just so in case Ultra Necrozma's looking a little bit, you know, worse for wear on health, you can just bring up the Altaria, heal everything on the bench, including possibly Malamar. Maybe, for example, Tapu Koko's been having a few flying flips, so, you know, happy days. That's pretty cool. Moving on to the more probably logical things to work with. Devoured Field. Pretty cool stadium. Sorry, field? Stadium. It just allows another 10 more damage on top of either Dark or Dragon types, and seeing as this is a Dragon type, and it would be pretty cool to do 60 instead of 50. So I mean that's pretty cool. Obviously, if a choice band, it'd be doing 90. So that's pretty cool. That is pretty nice. So it's always nice to have that. It just sucks that it is just 10. If it was 20 or 30, I could see a lot more people playing it. 10 is just a little bit like, eh. But who knows? It could be pretty cool. I put Zoroark GX in here as well. Seeing as the fact that it is a double colourless Pokemon, running Fairy energy really doesn't matter with this thing. Plus the fact you've got trade as well, so you can just trade all the stuff you don't want away. This doesn't even have to become the active. It's just there for the trade ability. It could go up to the active, don't get me wrong. If you did have the Fairy energies on it, just 2, then happy days, you can do Righteous Beating and crack on with that. And seeing as Zoroark GX is seeing a lot of play and people are trying to counter it, especially with the fighting Pokemon, this thing could get hit, maybe up to 200 health, comes back to the bench, bearing in mind your whole bench would have to be healed, not just that one Pokemon, because otherwise that's just a waste of a GX. You could then think of, healing that, or even Acerola it, and then get back those Fairy energies, place them on the Altaria, that sort of thing. So it's a mix and match sort of thing, but the fact that that is a double colourless Pokemon for that attack is insane, which is really, really cool. And the last one I have to put is Mysterious Treasure. That has got to be in this deck. If you are going to do the Altaria, put Mystery Treasure, put 4 of them, put your 4 Ultra Balls. You're then searching for all this stuff, but the fact that Mystery Treasure only allows you to discard 1 card, anything at all, it could be a Pokemon, it could be energy, it could be anything you want. 1 card, and then you can look for a Pokemon. It doesn't even have to be a basic. It could be the stage 1. For example, Altaria GX, which would be really, really cool indeed. So yeah, there we go. That is what I've come up with for what might work. The first 2 are a little bit of fun. It could work, but I think it'd be a bit of a struggle. It could work though. Could be quite fun. Zoroark I think is a good call because obviously it does help you churn through your deck. Mysterious Treasure, 100%. Devoured Field, I definitely think, give it a go. Maybe just 1 or 2, just to see how it goes. Or maybe even run some Kukuis as well, because obviously that does 20 more damage, so you're hitting a little bit higher there, which is pretty cool. So let's have a little look. I guess the GX answer. So last time I gave you that picture right there, what was that in fact? It was indeed Decidueye GX full art. So very, very cool. I think I mentioned it looked a bit like Shroomish. From the little frills on the bottom and the little holes as well, or the little white marks, looked a bit like Shroomish. But it is Decidueye GX nevertheless, so very nice stuff there. So, the Guess the GX for this episode is going to be that little image there, then that little image there, and then that even bigger image there. Let me know in the comments below what you think that is. You only have to put the GX, don't even have to put if it's a full art rainbow rare, that sort of thing. It's not a rainbow rare, obviously. Although that would probably put a lot of people off, so I might do that once, just to see if people can still guess it. But yeah, there we go. So I want to know in the comments below, guys, your thoughts on Altaria GX. Do you think it's viable? Do you think it could work? Could it be thrown in a Fairy deck? I didn't mention that, but it could be thrown in with like a Sylveon GX. That could definitely work. If I know people used to run Sylveon Mill, although Mill decks might not really work that well, seeing as a lot of stuff is going to get taken out when the format rotates. Yeah, I mean, it could still be really cool, even with Gardevoir as well, because Gardevoir could come back. Yeah, it could be interesting. Could be really, really cool. Really nice indeed. But there we go, guys. I will leave it here for this video. If you're new to the channel and finding me for the first time, then definitely hit that subscribe button below. And apart from that, I will see you guys in the next video on the channel.